Buenas, buenas, buenas. I'm Vanessa. I'm Vanessa, the host of Chicklet, a podcast where I share my honest reviews of books that I think Latinas and first gens would enjoy. Please subscribe and follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, and YouTube at Chicklet Podcast. And enjoy today's episode on the book Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. There are 562 pages in the book. We'll get into what I think about how long it is eventually. Just bear with me. The genres are contemporary romance, new adult fiction, and chicklet. So fitting for the podcast. The writing style is first person, where you go between the main character's point of view, Naomi, and Knox's point of view, the bad boy in the town that she just recently unexpectedly moved to. A little bit about the author. At 13, Lucy Score stole her first romance novel off of her mother's bookshelf and never looked back. Unhealthily influenced by Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, the naturally nosy Lucy studied journalism in college, only to realize she didn't like the rigidity required of just the facts. Instead of following in Lois Lane's footsteps, Lucy saddled herself with the most boring job she could find, proofreader. It was the first of many adult jobs that allowed her mediocrity as an employee to truly shine. She continued to escape into the world of romance novels at every opportunity, and when the drudgery of the real world pressed too close, she occasionally jotted down scenes that popped into her head. Somewhere around 2012, she read 50 Shades of Grey, which we all know, and the idea of writing a romance novel became a fantasy to cling to while trying not to get fired from her job working for a local newspaper. The day she was laid off, along with 1/3 of the staff, she decided to take the opportunity of unemployment to attempt to write a novella. It turned out to be a lot harder than she thought. She also freelanced as a journalist because she still had to eat and afford health insurance, which you know how I feel about that. When she finally published her novella, it sold an astounding 35 copies, mostly to friends and family. Shocked that she hadn't become an instant bestseller, Lucy locked her authoring dreams away in a moldy drawer and turned her attention to pretending to be an adult. It was during her stint in marketing that she received an email that revived the dream. 2 indie authors who started their own publishing company stumbled across Lucy's novella when Lucy's brother shared a link to it on an online forum and deemed it not bad. They offered to republish it for her if she would turn it into a full-length novel. After several minutes of celebratory screaming, Lucy bravely tackled the whole writer thing on nights and weekends. And in March 2015, Undercover Love was published. The modest success was enough to motivate Lucy to write another book and craft a 5-year plan that involved saving a year's salary while building up a backlist, developing a loyal following of readers, and the triumphant exit into full-time writing. The day after getting fired, her second book launched on Amazon, and thanks to luck, timing, and an advertising budget, within days clawed its way to the #1 spot in the Amazon Kindle store. Today's book is actually being made into a TV show, and I cannot wait to watch it. Hopefully they do it right. Hopefully they get Knox right. And hopefully it's not too PG either. Like, this book gets a little dirty. So we want that in the TV show, so I hope they don't mess it up. Lucy has sold millions of copies of her books worldwide and they've been translated into 29 languages. Let's get into lo bueno of today's book. Naomi is a twin to a really terrible woman named Tina. Tina always broke her parents' hearts by getting into trouble and eventually walking out of their lives after spending a year in jail. She was described in the book as this: she was a monster of the first degree. She stole, she lied, she picked fights, drank too much, showered too little, and had no regard for anyone else, all because she thought the world owed her. Naomi is the exact opposite of Tina. She spent her entire life trying to do the right thing for the sake of her parents. She never got into trouble or did anything wrong. When she was due to walk down the aisle to marry a nepo baby, like some guy who just sucked in general, he didn't deserve her, that's when Tina called saying that she needed help, and it was the perfect excuse to get Naomi to leave him at the altar. She went running, wedding dress and all. When she gets to her sister's town and goes to the local coffee shop to wait for Tina, Tina robs her. She steals her car, her phone, her computer, and ransacked her motel room. Since they're twins, everyone at the coffee shop immediately hates Naomi. There's even a sign at the coffee shop with Tina's face saying that she's not welcome because she's such a thief and a bad person. So when the town bad boy walks in, Knox, he's basically cursing Naomi out, thinking that it's Tina, and telling her that she's not welcome and she's got to get out of here. We spend the next 200 to 230 pages reading about how Naomi won't get over how much of an asshole Knox is, and Knox won't get over how annoying she is, while simultaneously he's helping her every step of the way. He helps her get a new phone, new clothes, he gives her a place to live, gives her a job at one of the establishments that he owns now that he won the lottery a few years ago. Their whole dynamic was definitely drawn out in the first 200, 230 pages. Like, that is such a long time to read a book. I don't mind sitting and reading for a few hours, but we got stuff to do. Like, how are we just 600 pages and the first 200 are trash? So redundant. I did not like the beginning, but for the sake of the podcast, and also it's a really popular book, I'm like, something has to be good, so let me give it a shot. Naomi has to take in Tina's 11-year-old daughter, Waylay. Knox steps up and helps Naomi navigate that process, all while saying that they hate each other and interacting with each other as if they hate each other, but they both take care of each other and spend a lot of time together, so they're very clearly, like, confused. Knox does a lot of outlandishly nice things for people when it comes to money or just in general. He gifts his brother $2 million when he won the lottery. He donated to the library so that they could hire Naomi part-time since he knew she wouldn't take his money. And he fixes up the town when he won the lottery. He volunteers his time at a local homeless shelter, cutting homeless people's hair. And so he's like this bad boy that does good. They weren't each other's types at all, which was overly done and redundant. Opposites attract, maybe, type of thing. They both want to heal each other. Naomi has never lived a day for herself and is now in danger since her dirtbag sister is doing illegal things. So Knox wants to protect her and take care of her since her life is now a mess and she's very clearly, like, not used to her life being a mess. So Knox is an asshole, but very sweet at the same time by being there for her. So they're very drawn to each other. Knox has a brother, Nash, and Nash is obviously a lot more normal and more up Naomi's alley. He's a cop, he's a sweet guy, and just as beautiful as Knox. They were too perfect of a match, kind of, at least with Knox. Knox kept Naomi on her toes and brought her outside of her box. Knox and Nash had a several-year-long beef going on, and of course, all it took was one combo with Knox and Naomi for them to kind of hash it out and get through it and start to make amends. The issue that they had for a few years was when Knox gave Nash $2 million to live a secure life. Nash used that money to redo the cop station in their town and get rid of the crooked cops. And so Naomi helps Knox see that, yeah, sure, he didn't put it into retirement or he didn't buy a home or anything like you wanted him to, but because their life as, like, delinquents was so tough, Nash took it upon himself to get rid of the bad cops and put in good cops to kind of clean out the police department and make everyone's living situation in town. Now, I get that concept. I'm not for propaganda, and so you will be hearing about this in El Chisme. But let's keep going. The whole first 240 pages, they each say a few things here and there about how they feel physically drawn to each other. They felt sparks when they brushed up against the other one's leg. The sexual tension is built up the entire time until we get to page 240. Knox's brother Nash gets shot because he's a cop and he's in harm's way. Oh my god, we have to protect cops. And so Knox is obviously heartbroken. So naturally, the only way for him to feel better is to finally sleep with Naomi. And they did. They actually do have sex finally. And like the chapter after, she's like waking up and she was like, was that a dream? And so you're like, bitch, was that a dream? But it wasn't. They really did have sex. And even though the whole time that they're having sex, they're like, you know, this is just a one-time thing. This is not real. We just know that it's not. Like, we know it's not a one-time thing. We know that they're going to be together. And in the morning, when they go downstairs, Naomi's parents are there and ends up meeting Knox. So he volunteers to pretend that they're dating to save face in front of her parents, when really we know it's because he actually wants to be with her. And also, when they're walking out, they're like kissing or whatever, and the social worker comes by. So they have to continue to pretend like they're dating because the social worker is in charge of deciding where Naomi's niece, Waylay, where she's going to live now that Waylay's mom, Tina, is no longer in the picture. So Naomi has to live this perfect life, and Knox is the boyfriend who's going to make her case look good and make her look good in front of her parents. And yeah, it's just like, it's obviously they're going to be together. Like, it's just a trope in books, right, where they pretend and at the end they end up together. So we're just waiting for that to happen, right? As the story progresses, we learn and we see that he's very avoidant, and we know it has something to do with his mom dying when they were kids. We don't know anything about his dad, and we don't know what happened with his grandmother, like, you know, Liza J, I think her name is. She's very present in the story, but you can tell that she's been through shit. Like, her house is not super clean, the blinds were drawn, and it was very dark, and she never really let people in, and so she obviously went through something, and we don't really know how that plays a role in Knox's baggage, but we know that it does play a role. So through the story, we're like kind of waiting to figure out, like, why is he so avoidant? Why can't he just be a grown-up and be like, hey, I like you, let's stop pretending, let's be together? Like, the whole time you're like, why aren't you doing that? And he carries that baggage with him, right? So Naomi also has baggage of her own when it comes to living her life, counteracting what her evil sister does. She also reveals that she left her fiance at the altar because he had been aggressive with her on 2 separate occasions. And again, I really like that the author didn't make this abuse example a stereotypical abuse where, you know, he punched her, threw her down the stairs. Like, what this guy did in the book, it is abuse. Like, he pulled her hair while she was driving, and so she swerved and almost hit something. Like, he put his hands on her, and also put her in even further danger. Like, that, both are abuse, and then he did it at the same time. So it's just super clear that that's abuse. And then another time he smacked the shit out of her after she was bringing something up that was bothering her. He smacked the shit out of her. And so he shares that, and that happened like a week before that happened the day before of their wedding. So it's like, she had to leave. She doesn't even recognize that she's a victim of domestic violence because it doesn't fit that stereotype of abuse. And so that's why I like that the author didn't make this a stereotypical example, because it's very rarely a stereotypical example of abuse. It's always something that we don't think is abuse, but it is. Like, if you are unsafe and you like are being hit or like touched physically and you don't want to, like, that's abuse, period. It doesn't have to be this big outlandish thing like that we see in movies and stuff. So I really like that the author did that. And she didn't want to tell anyone in her life why she left him, because she didn't want to take up space, she didn't want to worry them, and she doesn't even see herself as a victim. So she tells Knox about it, and obviously he makes it all better by giving her an orgasm, which, by the way, we are not mad at him or the author for doing that. Like, imagine a sexy ass man giving you an orgasm and whispering in your ear how you deserve the best, and is basically undoing all the trauma you've gone through. Like, he is a dream. We love Knox, and this is why we read the book. Like, every single sex scene, it's, you know, they're obviously like hot and steamy and it's like sex, but also it's very much like they care about each other, and it's like this hot and steamy need. It's not just sex. It's super intimate. Like, so beautiful. Like, all of their sex scenes, love them, 10 out of 10, great. Another thing that I liked about the book is that they painted the poor, small townsy people to be very, very pleasant. When Naomi was going to the trailer park to go see Tina's like place, we usually, when we think of a trailer park, you usually view it as like beneath us, or everyone's dirty and dangerous or stupid. And in the book, it was painted to be a very cute, sweet neighborhood. And I feel like that's a more accurate depiction of trailer parks. I personally refuse to accept the negative stereotype the media tries to sell us of trailer parks. Like, I like to believe that the majority of people on Earth are good, and the same goes for trailer parks. Like, they're all just people doing their best, trying to get through the day, trying to eat, trying to have money, like. And that's what the story told us, is that in the trailer park, it was just people trying to live their best life. And so that was very sweet. I'm glad that she did that. The whole town in general is very sweet. They welcome Naomi in with open arms. They all step up to protect her and help her with her niece, and she builds a cute, safe little life for them there. And there are so many great supporting characters like Sloane, Fee, Liza J, Amanda, and Lou, who are Naomi and Tina's parents, Lucian, I don't know how to say that name, Jeremiah, Steph. There are so many people, and the author does a really good job of diversifying the supporting characters. There was a black woman when she was playing poker. Jeremiah is Knox's best friend and co-owner of the salon, and he was bi and also Lebanese, like an immigrant. Steph is Naomi's gay best friend. One of Waylay's friends has gay dads. One of the nurses when Nash was in the hospital was a guy, so that's like breaking down the stereotype that all nurses are women. And so it was super cute, super diverse, super breaking down stereotypes, didn't fit any of the stereotypes, and I love that. We love a progressive, woke book. But back to the love story. Obviously, they fall very deeply in love, and that scares Knox, and he breaks up with Naomi because it's better that way. And honestly, like, I'm not really mad at it, because that's part of those tropes when people pretend. They always, like, break up, and then they spend however long apart, and then they get back together, right? So the whole time, you're just waiting to figure out, like, A, why is he avoidant, because we don't really know, and then when are they going to, like, get back together? So through that, we learn, everyone in town obviously is chiming in. Like, people stop going to his salon, people stop going to the bar that he owns. One of his tenants, when they gave him their rent, they put a sticky note and was like, "You fucked up." Because, like, he broke up with her. Like, everyone saw how much he loved her. And he was like, "No, they don't know. They don't know what they're talking about. I don't care what people think about me." It's so stupid. But whatever, it's part of the plot. I really wasn't mad about it. He has a conversation with her. He wants to tell her and open up to her, which is a sign that he's growing and healing and even getting even closer to her. We learned that he was avoidant because he saw what losing his mom did to his dad. His dad was now an addict. He tried to unalive himself. I swear, guys, like, I am not doing this on purpose. Every single book has people unaliving themselves. Like, I didn't know that a smutty, sexy book, corny, cheesy book, I did not know that there was going to be someone trying to unalive themselves. I'm so sorry. We're still looking out for books that don't include suicide. But so he saw what that did to his dad, how it broke him. And now his dad was a homeless man who was addicted to drugs. And so Knox, whenever he goes to volunteer at that homeless shelter, he cuts his dad's hair and gives him money once a month. And he's really heartbroken that his dad never chooses him. He never chooses him over the drugs, and that breaks his heart. So that's why when he's, dating Naomi, he's like, I can't get so close to her, because then if I lose her, I'm going to lose myself, just like my dad lost himself. And just like his grandmother lost herself when her husband died unexpectedly of a heart attack as well. So he's like, I can't do this. If I ever lose Naomi for whatever reason, we fall out of love, something happens to her, like, I'm not going to be able to survive that, because I love her so much. So I'm going to push her away. I'm going to break up with her and push her away. And it's like, is that not the definition of avoidance? Like, he's an avoidant attachment, or he has an avoidant attachment. So eventually, this is the last 20% of the book. Eventually, the evil twin, Tina, comes back. They're still broken up. Last 20% of the book, the evil twin, Tina, comes back into the picture and tricks Naomi into getting in the car with her. And she kidnaps her and brings her to a secret hideout at a local criminal's son's place, who was trying to make a name of himself. When Tina and Naomi got there, the criminal's son, he had Waylay tied up and was waving his gun around very irresponsibly. And I was very nervous the entire time, like the last 10% of the book, where I'm like, is this motherfucker gonna accidentally kill Naomi or Waylay? Like, is he gonna accidentally kill one of them? Because if he does, I'm gonna be pissed off. I'm gonna be so pissed if he does that. And mind you, there's less than 100 pages of the book, so I was like, is someone gonna die? Is there gonna be a cliffhanger? What is going to happen in this book? Because it was never violent at all. Like, the worst that happened was she got slapped once by her ex. So it's like, There was really not a lot of violence. I mean, I guess Knox beat a few people up, but that was like sexy. Like, you never feel scared. But there's a drunk guy waving a gun around in front of Waylay and Naomi. You're like scared the whole time. Anyways, apparently he was looking for a hard drive that Waylay had hidden from them. And turns out he was also the guy that shot Nash, Knox's brother. So right when he was about to shoot one of them, because Waylay, I don't know, I think Waylay did tell him where the thing was. So I don't really know why he was going to shoot her anyways. It's like, she already told you where it was. And I think he was like, oh, okay, thanks for telling me, I'm going to kill you now. Something stupid, ridiculous. And that is when Knox comes in and saves the day and beats him up. And it took that situation, like literally they're on the floor after surviving that, is when Knox realized, like, I can't live without them. And he literally told them right there on the floor, like, I'm going to marry you, Naomi. I'm going to spend the rest of my life with you, trying to prove to you that I'm worth having you. And he declares that, you know, they're going to get married. So, happily ever after, whatever. The following week at Waylay's 12th B-Day party, mind you, there's like 6 pages. 6 pages left in the book. And I'm like, what is happening at this 12-year-old's birthday party that we still are going here? It's Waylay's 12th birthday party. After giving Naomi multiple orgasms, Knox goes outside and proposes to her in front of all of their friends and family. He tells her he wants more kids. His grandmother, Liza J., gave them her house. Tina signed over her parental rights to Naomi, and Naomi's parents are moving into one of the houses on the land. Like, they're not going to move back to wherever, LA or New York City or wherever they're from. It felt so rushed and so ridiculous and so unnecessary. Like, we're here for the orgasms, we're here for the love story. Like, we don't really need all of those boxes checked. It seemed like there was just so many. If they didn't do all that in the last 6 pages, we would have been like, what happened to the parents? What happened to Waylay? What, like, where would they live? And so I feel like they just did all that to kind of give us, like, a better closure on the book. But it was so rushed and, like, so much happened in, like, that one birthday party. Like, literally, like, I think it was just absurd. It was just really ridiculous. So if you don't really care about the first 30% of the book being redundant and stupid and irritating, and you don't really care that the last 20% of the book is absolutely absurd and has almost nothing to do with their relationship, like, at all, like, just super rushed and just checking things off the list. So if you want to ignore that 50% and focus on the middle 50%, feel free to read the book. Feel free. But I know that I had to read the book because I wanted to get, like, a good picture for what the book was. Like, I would not have been able to just be like, oh, you said it was a bad book? Okay, I won't read it. I think you should just read the book and form your own opinion, because I know I just told you everything that happens, but the sex scenes, bitch, just read the book. If you're gonna read the book, it's for the sex scenes. It's not really for the plot, just so you know, because the plot is messy. Let's just go into lo malo. So the things that I would have changed about the book is that I would have played up the brother situation and made Naomi do some type of, like, I don't know which brother to pick type of situation. I'm not really sure. This book, at the beginning, when you weren't really sure what was going to happen, like, between Knox and Nash and her, because there wasn't a love triangle. There was not. It was always very clear, like, that there was Knox, that it was going to be Knox, but there were times where you were like, before her and Knox got together, where she could have gone with Nash. She very well could have had a crush on Knox. Knox could have had a crush on her, and she very well could have gone with Nash. And so if you're into something like that, if you want to read a book that is about, like, a love triangle, specifically with brothers and a girl, you should read the book series Flock. I think there were 3 of them. And that one is not as fun and silly and light as this book. That book is definitely a lot heavier and darker than this book, but it's very sexy, and like I said, it's like a love triangle between the 3 of them. And yeah, so that's what I would have changed, mostly because, like, Nash is super cute anyway, so it's like, why would we not want to hear more from him? You know what I'm saying? But turns out the second book is from his perspective. It's like his life, and then the third book is about their best friend Lucian, I don't know, and his perspective and his way, his life. So we do hear about Nash in the second book, and I might read it. But my friend, who suggested this whole series to me, she said that she didn't really like the second book. The third one was the best one. So I'm like, I want to know about Nash, but she didn't really like it. But you know what? She loved this one, and I didn't really like this one, so maybe I would like the second one. Who knows? Anyways, I'm going to give it a shot. Stay tuned for the second book. Another thing I didn't like was when Naomi, early on in the book, she started playing poker. She started playing poker with some, town, dangerous people, and they all lent her $5,000 and she played poker and then she won. And it's she's very stupid because Knox was very clear that it was dangerous, and her sister is dangerous and doing stupid shit. So she doesn't know these people. She just met them, and then she's what if she lost and then she owed each person $5,000? And I know that they just gifted it to her and whatever, but again, these people are criminals. They're literally breaking the law as you sit here in front of them. And you're just going to trust that if you lose a game and someone walks out with 20s, that the other 3 people, they're going to be where's my 5K? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. It could have gone south. And at that point, it was still kind of new in the book. So you didn't know if it was going to be she's fucking up. You really didn't know much. So I didn't like that. I thought she was stupid for that. But I guess she was desperate, and it ended up working out because she won 20K, and it miraculously saved all her money problems. So whatever. Lo malo. For el chisme, like I was saying before, I don't like propaganda. I'm not into it. A lot of women don't feel safe reporting abuse because of how ineffective the police are. And there wasn't a lot of that, and no one said oh, why didn't you report it to the police or anything like that. But I just don't like propaganda. And in the same book, she was a victim of domestic abuse. And so there was an article, and I'm linking the article in today's episode notes. The article is titled, "For Domestic Violence Survivors, Restraining Orders Offer Little Support." And in the article, it says that restraining orders are oftentimes nothing more than paper tigers, and that's basically just a piece of paper that doesn't do much to stop a human from hurting another human. It's literally just a piece of paper. And the reason why it doesn't do much is because when people violate restraining orders, nothing bad happens. Nothing happens to them. It just goes on the piece of paper oh, they violated the restraining order. Nothing happens to them. There's no repercussions for breaking it. So it's these people who are harming their partners, there's no con to stopping. They also showed how in the LAPD, out of, I forget, it was 5,000 domestic violence calls, I think less than 100 were actually documented and got restraining orders out of it. It was just a small percentage of people who called and needed help that actually got the restraining order to begin with. So it's they don't give it out to people, and then when they do, it's not effective anyways. So it's the whole process. There's holes in the entire every step of the process. And an expert in the article also says that police do not fully understand and are unprepared to respond adequately to domestic violence calls. And so it just really drives the point that cops are doing way too much. They have their hands in every single pot possible. Cars, domestic stuff, school stuff, children. They're just hands in every pot, and they're doing too much when we could be using the money that cops get to focus on other things so that we can actually respond to domestic violence and other, drug addiction as well. They're going to these drug addiction calls, they're going to the mental health calls, and they're not prepared. They're not trained to do that. They're not trained to do any of this. They're only trained to arrest people and give them tickets, but they have to go and help. Statistically, it's more often women. They have to go help women and then not give them the restraining order. And then when they do, it doesn't even do anything anyway. So it's it just really highlights how ineffective the whole process is. And I'm not going to lie, when I was researching it, there was another study by the University of Michigan that noted that in Michigan, restraining orders did decrease the chance of domestic homicide. So violence still occurred, people were still getting hurt, but because of the restraining order, and I think it was because with the restraining order, it also comes with limitations of gun ownership and being able to buy guns and have guns. Because of that, women didn't die as frequently as before. And I just want to note that, like, all red states are trying to get rid of all of that because they're so pro-guns that they don't care about restraining orders. They don't care about women's safety. They're literally just letting people buy guns, and it doesn't matter about anything. And so, super dangerous. Feel free to look into that. I'm not a reporter. I'm not going to tell you everything. These are all just my opinions, and I'm biased, so research it, bitch. Look into it, but that's how I feel about it. That's what I think. So the next episode will be on Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste. I don't know how to say NG. How do you pronounce NG? Pronounce last name NG. Eng. Okay. It's by Celeste Eng. So if you like this episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. New episodes are uploaded on Monday mornings. I'm posting daily videos on YouTube recapping my everyday life. You can also follow me on social media at Chicklit Podcast. And remember, if you have any book recommendations or want to be on the podcast, let me know. Thank you for listening. Bye.